Hello! Some of you may know that I created a computer paint program called KidPix. It was published in 1991 and became quite successful. Today, I occasionally have students tell me that they used it as a child and it encouraged them to pursue a career in digital arts and design. This is something I am proud of. What is little known is that in 2005, I wrote another paint program in the spirit of KidPix that went virtually unnoticed. In the years following my involvement with KidPix development, I would occasionally have ideas for interesting paint program features, but didn't have the occasion to use them. In 2005, I had been creating software in Macromedia Director and decided to write an experimental paint program. In the beginning, I was only going to make a limited function prototype, but realized that with the right plugins and techniques, I could make it into a standalone Macintosh program. What I came up with was Beautiful Dorena. Beautiful Dorena was a kind of kitchen sink project that consisted almost entirely of quirky and unusual features. The tools tend to be more interesting than useful. In fact, it might be one of the most unusual pieces of software ever created. It is certainly the only paint program that, in addition to drawing features, comes with a fictional backstory that describes its creation. According to the story, it was made by a computer club at a small Oregon high school named Hazelnut Springs High. All of the character names come from Willamette Valley, Oregon place names. When Beautiful Dorena was close to being finished, I placed a version of it online for anyone to use. A number of people downloaded it, but I was disappointed that I was never able to get traction with it. Eventually, Apple stopped supporting the older versions of their operating system that it ran on, so no one could use it. For practical purposes, it was like it never happened. In fact, I have to keep an older computer around that I'm careful not to upgrade so I can use it. Recently, I got enough adapters together and figured out how to record video from that older computer and thought that it might make an interesting presentation. So let's take a look at some of Beautiful Dorena's more interesting features. Let's start with the Freeform line tool. Freeform line tool lets you draw freeform lines. It's probably the most commonly used tool, but it also has some kind of interesting features. Here we can connect the ends, and the two ends of the line are always connected. Next, we can say we want a short line. With a short line, as we draw, the line shrinks up in back of us. This is clearly a solution in search of a problem. Or we can turn on gravity. And with gravity turned on, as we draw, the line drifts down the screen. There's even a little bit of acceleration put in there too, so it goes faster the farther down the screen it goes. Or we can have it draw kind of these grid shapes, or on a grid. So we get these straight edges. That is the Freeform line tool. Now let's look at the Basic Shape tool. Basic Shape tool doesn't have a lot of interesting features. It will draw short lines though, so as you draw straight lines, it will kind of follow your path and shrink up behind you. It's almost like you're dancing with the line. Or you can have the line be stretched, which is kind of fun. So as you pull the line out, it shrinks up, sort of like a rubber band would. Now let's look at the Polygon Tool. Polygon Tool draws polygons. You can set the number of sides you want. Let's see. Let's give 8 sides here. And you can add in this feature called starriness. And it looks like that. And you can maybe blend them a little bit. And you can fill the screen with some kind of interesting images. Let's turn up the wacko. Now with the wacko turned up, the star shapes look like this. So that's kind of a fun tool. Next is the Cellular Automata tool. Cellular Automata are a category of drawing algorithms that are based on simple rules. In this case, whenever a pixel is drawn, it looks at the 3 pixels on top of it and draws either a black pixel or a white pixel depending on the pattern of the 3 pixels on top. And you can set the rule here if you want and see what happens. Let's make a little change here, and you can see we get a whole different kind of pattern by just changing those simple rules. You can also have the program pick a rule for you by clicking there. And there are a bunch of other options too. So you can see by just making slight changes in the rule, you can get some dramatic changes in the resulting pattern. Next is a tool I call Twist and Shout, which is basically a spirograph tool. As you hold down the button, it draws a spiral, but it has a bunch of parameters you can set. And so the idea is you don't necessarily know what these things do. You just sort of try them out. Let's just change a few little things here and see what we get. We can also change the color of the marbles we're drawing with. You can pick them by hand, or you can have the computer pick interesting combinations for you. So you can see we didn't change a whole lot, but we're getting a very different pattern resulting. And if you let it run a while, it will repeat, but at a slightly different starting point, and so you get these interesting secondary patterns. Now we'll look at the hair tool. Hair tool draws hair. Since the computers back then weren't really fast enough to do this in real time, you draw and then let it go ahead and do the hair drawing, and you can use the second color if you want and do some other kind of interesting things. That's the hair tool. Next we will look at the text tool. The text tool is a little unusual for text tools. You decide where you want it and click, and you can actually you can move it, and you can change the size by changing these things, and then when you're ready you kind of hit the little stamp tool and then stamps it in place. Now it actually has another interesting feature. It has built in the Emily Dickinson poems, Hamlet, Canterbury Tales, Einstein's theory of relativity, and common phrases. And so if you're at a loss for words, you can always just click right here on this little picture of Shakespeare and you will get one of those things. Right here we're looking at the common phrases. Let's change this a little bit here, and let's choose the theory of relativity and see what we get. So that can be kind of fun. Then we'll stamp that down there. Now here's the video tool. The video tool lets you draw with live video. Hey, there I am right there. And you can choose different effects you want. You can have it be a negative, you can have extra noise, blur, have it contrasty, draw an outline or grayscale, or displaced pixels, which is a little like a shower door or something. But let's just draw in regular. And so you can stamp that down like that, or if you hold down on the mouse button, you can actually draw with live video. Actually, if you make it a little smaller, it works. You can also change the angle that it comes at, the blend, or you can just spin it as you draw. Here we go. There we go. Whoa! There we go. That is the video tool. There's also another video tool which works on the principle of motion detection. Let me clear the screen here. Now I had a few tools that I thought were interesting, but not quite enough to warrant a whole new tool. So I put them in a section called More. Plus, I was running out of space there on the end of the on the edge of the screen. So here's one that has little arrows that point and make a funny noise as you draw. And here's another one, numbers. You can draw with numbers. If you want numbers, you got numbers. If we want to have more digits, you can have more digits. Oops, that was the size, wasn't it? Let me increase the number of digits. There we go. There we got lots of digits. Here's one called Bounce, where you click and it kind of shoots a little ball out, and that ball bounces around, but you can give it a whack, and every time you give it a whack, it changes color. And here's another one that's kind of fun called Live Line. And when you draw with it, it actually, the first points you draw on the line, remember to look for the cursor if they're nearby. And so even though you've already drawn, the picture still responds. It's Live Line. Now let's look at the library. The library contains a bunch of scans that I made from the university library from 19th century, largely 19th century books. I've got some wildflowers, I got costumes, I got just miscellaneous pictures, I got pictures of bugs, ferns, beautiful kind of interesting drawings. So let's take the some flowers here, and you can stamp them down like so. Or if you want, you can say you want to overlap them, and then you can sort of draw with them like so. Or if you really want something interesting, you can say you want to spin them, and you want to use random pictures. So it'll pick random ones from the set and just draw like this, and get kind of an instant meadow. There are some other interesting features here. Now let's come back and look at this tool. This one is called the Pixel Mover. Actually, I think I will load a picture that was already made. And work on it. And so you can say you want the picture, this is called Taffy, so you can kind of distort the picture in various ways. Or you can tilt it. We can tilt the whole picture and do a number of other things to it. Here's the called Grid Boy, which kind of takes little square sections of the picture and will rotate them. That's kind of fun. We also have special effects. You can make the whole picture in negative, solarize it, do all kinds of things with it, blur it, pixelate it, different amounts, or swirl it. There's our swirled version of the picture. Another kind of fun thing you can do is you've got some printed oddities. One of them is a fake diploma, that there is the background story of how this was created, the fictional background story I wrote, how it was written by a computer club and at Hazelnut Springs High School. And if you choose that and you put in your name, it will print out this fake diploma. Over here you can turn off and on the two different soundtracks. There's the tool sounds, which you've been hearing when I use a tool. Then also there are the environmental sounds, like dogs barking and birds and cars going by, things like that. There's even someone who practices their trombone at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because the environmental sounds are actually tied to the system clock. So, for instance, you'll have more traffic going by if you're using the program in the morning and afternoon than you would if you're using it at other times during the day. Now, if you want a little feedback on your picture, down here we have two critics. We've got Dexter Lake, and he doesn't like anything. If you ever want advice, you just click on this, and here are some of his comments.
That's awful. I could do better than that, and I'm a jerk.
On the other hand, here is Mabel Silverton, and she is very easy to please.
You should enter that in the county fair. It's a lovely picture, just lovely.
When Apple stopped supporting the last version of the operating system Beautiful Dorena would work on, I did get some email from users, including at least one school, who wanted to know if I would be updating it. By that time, Macromedia Director was not being actively supported, and the plugins I was using were not being updated. Supporting a new version of Beautiful Dorena was not possible. Beautiful Dorena did get some attention. Chris Breen, at that time senior editor at Macworld, did a wonderful blog post that was thoughtful and thorough. And while putting this presentation together, I did a Google search and was surprised to run across several references to Beautiful Dorena that I didn't know about. They were posted a number of years ago and were quite positive. One even included it in a list of the top 10 best paint applications for Mac for expressing your creativity. And KidPix was there too.